Story 1. The boss who tried to ruin my career and accidentally ended his own. I spent 12 years working at a manufacturing company in the Midwest. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. My job was simple: keep the logistics system running smoothly. And I did, better than anyone. But when our longtime director retired, the company brought in a leadership expert, a 38-year-old guy named Gavin. If a Patagonia vest and a LinkedIn profile gained sentience, that would be Gavin. He walked in like he owned the place, and he hated me immediately. Maybe it was because I was older. Maybe it was because I'd been there longer than he'd been alive. Maybe he just didn't like that people listened to me instead of him. Whatever the reason, he made me his personal project. The harassment started slow: new redundant policies, random performance reviews, nitpicking over things no one had ever cared about. But then it escalated. One morning, HR called me in and told me an anonymous report had been filed. Concerns about attitude and unwillingness to adapt to new leadership. Anonymous, but signed with every one of Gavin's catchphrases. I laughed. HR didn't. 2 days later, Gavin told me flat out, "You're not a good culture fit anymore. If you resign, I'll make sure we give you a positive reference. If you force me to fire you, well, I won't be able to help you." Translation: quit quietly so he could replace me with a buddy. He truly believed I had no fight left in me. What he didn't know is that I kept records of everything: every email, every directive, every Zoom meeting, including the one where he literally said, "Ignore the safety protocol. It slows the process." That would come back later. For months, he assigned me impossible tasks, then reprimanded me for not completing them fast enough. He even changed project deadlines retroactively to make me look incompetent. But I stayed calm, because I had a plan. One night, I compiled everything: the emails, the ignored safety warnings, the HR manipulation, even voice clips from meetings, into a neat little file. Then I sent it to the CEO, the board, the parent company's compliance office, and, for flair, their insurance liability investigator. Turns out, when a director tells an entire department to bypass federally required safety procedures, the insurance company becomes extremely interested. The dominoes fell in less than 10 days. First, the company's legal department contacted me for an interview. Then the board launched a formal investigation. HR suddenly found concerns regarding leadership integrity. And Gavin? He walked into work one Friday, wearing his usual overconfidence, and walked out escorted by security, holding a cardboard box and blinking like someone had unplugged his brain. They didn't just fire him, they banned him from the property. They froze his company stock, and they reported his violations to a federal agency. His entire leadership guru reputation went down in flames. As for me, the CEO personally apologized. They offered me Gavin's position. I turned it down. I didn't want his headaches, but I did negotiate. A raise, a better schedule, and 2 extra weeks of paid vacation. Here's the part that still makes me smile. Months later, a former co-worker sent me Gavin's new LinkedIn headline: "Independent business consultant, seeking new opportunities." Translation: unemployed and desperate. He wanted me gone so badly that he dug his own professional grave, and then tripped into it headfirst. Story 2. The neighbor who stole my parking spot. Learned the hard way that karma drives a tow truck. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, mostly retirees, veterans, and people who say things like, "I don't trust microwaves." Very peaceful, until he moved in. A middle-aged man with an expensive truck and the personality of a blocked drain. His name was Rick, but everyone unofficially called him the Space Thief. Because Rick believed every parking spot on the street belonged exclusively to him, including mine. Now, I'm 68. I had a knee replacement. I need that spot directly in front of my house. It's the only reason I can still live alone. Day 1. Rick parks in my spot. Day 2. Rick parks in my spot again. Day 5. I politely ask him to stop. He smirks at me and says, First come, first served, old-timer. Old-timer. I fought in a war before he fought acne. I tried everything. Notes, talking, even contacting the HOA. Nothing worked. Then one morning, after a doctor's appointment, I came home and found not only my spot taken, but Rick had placed traffic cones to reserve it for himself. That was the moment something in my soul clicked. Fine, son. If you want war, I've seen better men than you on battlefields. Step 1. I called a retired police officer friend and asked what I could legally do. Turns out, our street has a little-known rule. If a car blocks direct access to a homeowner's mailbox, the city can tow it. Guess what Rick's giant shiny truck was doing? Step 2. I waited for the mailman. Step 3. I politely explained the situation. The mailman nodded and called it in immediately. 2 hours later, the truck was gone, to the nearest impound lot. Rick came stomping to my porch, screaming, red as a tomato. "You had my truck towed?" "No," I said, smiling. "The city did. Your cones were very creative, though." He threatened to teach me a lesson, which was adorable. My 82-year-old neighbor, a retired Marine, stepped out of his house and said, "Son, the last lesson this man learned was in Vietnam. You don't want to be the next one." Rick backed down, but karma wasn't done. Because impound fees are expensive. And here's the twist. Rick had outstanding parking violations in his previous city. The impound system flagged them. He had to pay all of them before he could get his truck back. Over $1,800. After that day, Rick never touched my parking spot again. In fact, whenever he saw me walking outside, he greeted me with the respect of a man acknowledging a superior enemy. Sometimes revenge is cruel. Sometimes revenge is poetic. And sometimes revenge simply requires knowing city ordinances better than the fool who wronged you. Story 3. My brother tried to steal our parents' home. I made sure he regretted it forever. My parents are in their 70s, salt-of-the-earth type people, worked their whole lives, paid off their house, lived modestly. My brother, however, well, he believes life comes with a cheat code. His name is Adam. Adam is the kind of person who buys expensive shoes while owing thousands in credit card debt. The kind who says, "I deserve it," when he hasn't earned a thing. He and his girlfriend, now fiancée, Michelle, decided they wanted to start a family. Instead of buying a home like grown adults, they made a different plan. Move into my parents' house, kick them out, and claim the property as theirs. They didn't say it that bluntly, of course. They sugar-coated it. "Mom, Dad, it just makes sense for you to downsize. You don't need all this space at your age. You can move to a condo. We'll take care of the house." My parents politely refused. Adam didn't like hearing no. Suddenly, my parents were selfish, ungrateful, standing in the way of their future grandchildren. Michelle even told my mother, "Older people shouldn't be managing large homes. You could fall." You could fall. My mother taught kindergarten for 40 years. She's sturdier than Michelle's entire moral backbone. The manipulation got worse. Adam guilt-tripped. Michelle nagged. Eventually, my mother called me in tears. "I think they're trying to force us out." I knew Adam, knew how far he'd go. So I quietly took my parents to an estate attorney. They drafted a living trust that granted the house to me while allowing them to live in it for life. Adam was explicitly excluded. My parents didn't want to punish him. They wanted protection. Well, karma punishes people on its own timeline. 2 weeks before Adam's wedding, he and Michelle came over and announced, "We decided we're moving into the house after the honeymoon." My dad said, "No, you're not." Adam rolled his eyes. "Dad, we already picked out rooms for the kids." I stepped in. "Actually," I said, "you won't be living here at all. Not now. Not ever." My brother laughed. "You don't decide that." My father quietly placed the trust documents on the table. Adam read the first page. His face changed color 3 times. This isn't fair. You're giving the house to him." My mom said calmly, "We're giving ourselves peace. You weren't offering that." Michelle exploded. She yelled that we ruined their future, that we owed them, and, my favourite, that I was stealing her dream home. My dream home. A house I mowed the lawn of when I was 8. But we weren't done. Because Michelle's parents, very traditional, they believed a husband should provide a home. When they learned Adam planned to live off his elderly parents instead, they pulled their financial support for the wedding. Suddenly, the dream wedding became a courthouse ceremony. Then Michelle blamed Adam. Adam blamed me. Then they both blamed my parents. Now they don't speak to us. And the best part? My parents still live in their home, happy and peaceful. They garden. They host holidays. They laugh again. Adam's dream home now sits permanently out of reach, protected by legally reinforced steel. Some people learn lessons the easy way. My brother learned his the legally binding way.